Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 31st, 2023 at approximately 4:23 p.m. PST. Now, I return to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But the reason I bill myself as a spiritual guide is because the tools I offer are the exact same tools that I personally live by, that I personally implement. And the philosophies of life that I talk about are the ones that I personally live by. So, with this in mind, I am looking at one very simple question. How do you overcome your fear of living? This is something that most of us have struggled with, and we fallen and we categorize it as all sorts of different things. Okay. The biggest one is, I was just procrastinating. Or, I didn't think I could do that well, so I just didn't do it. People keep telling me I can't do it. Of course, the reality is we have been taught to live in fear, right? And we've been taught to do what we're told. And if we don't do what we're told, we're supposed to fear the outcome. And coming in with the gold is Kimberly. How you doing, Kimberly? Hope your day's gone well. I myself have lived in fear, procrastinating, putting things off forever and a day, quite frankly. Joe, how you doing? And you come in with the silver. The reality of everything I'm looking at says way too many people turn around, and here we have Paul coming in with the bronze. Glad you can make it there, Paul. We have I was going to say we have an obligation, but the only person you have an obligation to is yourself. So how do we go about putting fear behind us? Well, of course, the first thing to do, is you literally have to give yourself permission to move forward. Because let's face it, moving forward is not a case of lack of fear. That is not how you don't have to be fearless to move forward. What it requires, or what it seems to require, and this applies to literally everybody, is the courage to move forward in spite of fear. Not overcoming fear itself, but accepting the fact that you may have something to be afraid of. There may be issues around you that you've had to deal with. And we are taught right from the get-go, okay, when we're talking your parents, and understand something very important here. I do not blame any of the predecessors, okay, at all. I really don't. And coming in with honorable mention here is Carlito, okay. The reality of it is we are taught by people that were taught the same thing, okay. We're taught to fear. Your parents teach you to fear what's going on, to turn around and, if you don't do this, I'm going to punish you. Or if you don't do what I tell you, you're going to be punished. It's done backwards, in my opinion. Okay. Instead of teaching people to fear, what we've got to get back to is teaching people how to look forward to success instead of look in terror at what we call failure. Now, to me, failing is simply when you don't give any effort. When you fail to take the initiative, or more to the point, you choose not to. Okay, if you look at an opportunity, and I'm talking about a positive opportunity, if you look at an opportunity and you say, I'm not doing that, okay, and then you complain that your life is not going well, okay, what you're doing there is failing to take action. You're not failing per se, but you are choosing not to take action. Okay, and net result, if you don't change, your life doesn't change. This is just a simple little fact. Okay. Now, with that in mind, it is really imperative that we start working together, that we start reaching out to each other. And this is why when I open it, when I first go to set the live stream up, at the top of it, you'll find a bunch of different links. Okay. These are people who have YouTube channels. Now, my personal opinion is real simple. Okay. And that is that, with over 8 billion people on the planet right now, there is no shortage of viewers. There really isn't. And I'm still waiting for my side screen to come up. This is why I'm sitting here. What do we got here? Yeah, well, and I can understand that all too well, Paul. I actually myself never actually read Dune, but I did watch the show. Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Not overly. I'm only early I got on about 3 minutes ahead of time. But I am glad you managed to get here. And why is this not coming up? I've been on here long enough, you'd think, but apparently not. I'm just trying to get my screen so I don't have to lean quite so close. Oh, there we are. Now my side screen that's got what you guys are seeing is able to come on track here. So we just bring this up and make sure. No, I don't need that. There we go. Now I can see the screen a little easier. Okay. Ultimately, yeah, Paul, there is no question there. When you are afraid of something, it can stop, you can wipe out your motivation, it can wipe out your get up and go. Okay. Now, one of the things that I found has worked really well for a lot of people, and if you haven't done this, give it a shot, because the reality is, well, give it a shot if you'd like to. The reality is, I've come to understand it, is if you give in to fear, in other words, you look at it and go, I'm afraid of it, I can't do it. Okay. It's not a question of you can't. There is very little on this planet, there's very little in existence that you cannot do. There's a lot of things I wouldn't recommend. Personally, I don't recommend skydiving. I'm not afraid of heights by any means, but on the other hand, I've never found a rational reason to get out of a perfectly good aircraft unless it's parked on the ground. Somebody's been watching Ghostbusters. But you do realize the way that you phrase that, Shadow? If you ain't afraid of no ghosts, that means you're afraid of ghosts. It's a double negative. But that being said, some of my best friends are dead and wander around my house with me. Matter of fact, I got a couple that, create all kinds of havoc on occasion. But we have to, it is wise to take a look at the past and just go, okay, the past. Everything that was going on, even in the last nanosecond, is the past. It's already happened. You cannot alter it. So I'm choosing to look forward and go, okay, where do I go from here? Now, with that in mind, I have got to quit procrastinating on getting advertising out for my books and what have you. But again, it's the same thing. I've run into so many problems that just like you run into enough problems and you're going to be reluctant to actually go down that road again. Sometimes this is a good thing. Okay. I did my stint with drugs and alcohol and decided I'm not going down that road again. On the other hand, my stint with water, I'm quite happy to stay going with. But the thing that causes fear, most of what causes fear, happens to be this issue of, not understanding what you're dealing with. That is an interesting way to put it, especially from an author's standpoint. Paul just put in the chat room here, the moving finger writes and having writ moves on. Okay, now you're in trouble if you've got two fingers attached to the same hand, and one goes that way and the other goes the other way. Then you could have a problem. So hopefully you're not doing that. But it's a question of getting to understand, first and foremost, that fear, if you try and tangle with it all head on, and this again shows how little I read. Okay. Paul is just saying it's from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, who, to be frank, I don't know who it is, and that's okay. I keep telling myself I should read a little more, and then I look at it and go, yeah, I probably should. I think it requires picking up a book. But thus far, that hasn't worked out all that well for me. But if you try tangling with whatever it is that bothers you, that is holding you back, okay, even when we're dealing with every time you do something, you walk into the same wall. The number of people that I talk to that are following a so-called spiritual guide, okay, that is telling them, you've got to fear life, you've got to fear life, you've got to fear death. If you don't live life my way, you're going to suffer. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, there is one advantage to living life my way. Hey, Saint, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The one advantage, I don't know if it's an advantage or not, I don't have to deal with a lot of complications with other people because of the fact that, well, frankly, I don't go and see them. That's the easiest thing that I deal with. Hopefully they're saying your life has changed in a positive fashion in the last couple of days. I know in the last, I'd have to check, when did I have that conversation? Let's see here. I have to take a look at my, you see, oh, I don't want that. I'm looking for that one. I'm just curious when the last time, when the phone call I had actually panned out. Let's see. Of course I can't tell, so we're just not going to bother. I had a conversation 2 or 3 days ago, okay, and I'd had the same conversation with the same person time and time again. But somehow, whether it was how I was listening, how calm I was when I had it, whatever, it twigged on how to deal with corporations and how to deal with government agencies without my getting absolutely frustrated with them. Whether it's going to work or not, I don't know, but I certainly feel better about it. The important factor here is the way to overcome fear of whatever is one step at a time. Okay, there are certain times where that doesn't apply. Okay, like for instance, if you're trying to get over the fear of, if you're trying to get over the fear of jumping off the high diving board, you can go bit at a time and climb a little higher and then work your way up, which is a great way. But unfortunately, most of the places that have a high diving board aren't set up to go up 1 foot every, 1 foot to leap. Okay, so if you're starting off, you're trying to come off a 30-foot drop, right? It's going to have a problem if you are afraid of heights. But I will tell you, after that first step, you're pretty much committed. Okay, you're absolutely pretty much committed. So what we look at is take a look at that goal. Take a look at the way your life is going and ask yourself, are you content with the path your life is on? Now, I know for a certainty that the path I'm on, I know where I'm heading with it now. And oddly enough, I'm really not fighting it anymore. Okay, because things are changing. Does it take getting used to that shift? Absolutely. Okay, but when we're looking at it, you can continue with the idea of living in fear. Okay, and I mean living in fear of death, living in fear of life, whatever. Take your pick. No, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You don't unlock, you're absolutely right. Now, just in case, I wonder if you're aware of why drinking won't help you progress. I wonder if you know what the real hiccup is. I did discover it. Of course, in my case, I discovered it by dealing with a whole pile of people. Okay, not to mention myself. But here's where alcohol creates a problem. Alcohol itself knocks out your trained and learned inhibitors. So if you're drinking in order to cope with a problem, or if you're using drugs to try and cope with a problem, when the alcohol knocks out the trained and learned inhibitors, it knocks out your coping mechanism. Okay, so certainly you drink enough, you're not going to worry about it for that moment, but you're adding to the problem even if you're not aware of it. And I know some of the people in this room and some of the people watching this video after the fact, okay, are people that have had their run-ins with alcohol. Okay, I never had an argument with alcohol. I had no problem at all. Somebody would put it in a glass and I drink it, no argument at all. And the reality behind that was that I never had to worry about. I was lucky. If I was eating, I never had a hangover. But I did find I could drink enough to get alcohol poisoning. But alcohol itself, okay, and there's nothing wrong with alcohol as it were. Okay, absolutely. There's no saying that still applies. Everything in moderation. Okay, alcohol is a wonderful way of escaping the issue temporarily, but it won't make it go away. Any addiction can be used as an escape route. I know people that work 24/7. Okay, they work 24/7 in order to avoid dealing with other issues. Some people choose the method of sleeping their days away, again, in order to avoid it. Now, this doesn't work all that well. Okay, because sad to say, have you ever noticed if you go to sleep, well, you will go to sleep, but have you ever noticed when you go to sleep, if the dishes weren't done before you go to sleep, you can avoid doing the dishes while you're sleeping, but when you get up, you still have the dishes sitting there. Amazingly, they don't actually go away. Same as, amazingly enough, if you avoid talking and communicating about the things that are bothering you, the problem will not go away. There will not be resolution. And yes, there is that possibility if you ignore it long enough, the people will leave you alone. This does not mean you resolve the problem. And whatever caused the problem, do understand where communication is concerned, it has invariably, okay, with over 100,000 clients under my belt, there have been invariably, when you're looking at communication, a 50-50 responsibility in any communication, without exception. Now, this applies to me as well. In other words, when I've gotten into disagreements with people, half of it has been my fault. Okay. Either I didn't understand what they were saying, or I didn't phrase what I was asking them properly so they could get it. Now, do I have problems with, or more to the point, have I had problems with corporations in the past? You bet your bottom dollar I have. Okay. But what you have to look at, first and foremost, take a look in the mirror. Because I will tell you, whatever you're afraid of, half of that is up here. Half of it is legitimate. And it's all legitimate. But half of it is triggered by outside forces. Half of it is you looking at your own issues and essentially blowing them out of proportion, which gives you a subconscious reason to avoid dealing with them, because it's always going to go that way. Now, I will tell you, I was in exactly the same boat until 3 days ago, I think, maybe 4. Okay, where I was still looking at the issue of it's not going to work well. Now, with that in mind, when you get to the point of really taking a look in the mirror and going, What are you aiming for? Well, I came to the conclusion after the conversation with my little brother that first and foremost, we're going to take my company, Inner Voice Enterprises, and I'm going to blow it into an international issue. Well, induce, that's a word for it. I personally prefer the word encourage. But yes, some entities, and I am not talking about just spirits. Some people can walk into a room and just bring about that air of this is going to be a bad day, because every single living human that I've ever run into, and 99% of the individuals that are of a different race, are born empathic. It is an ability that is innately structured into the cognitive genome. Okay. But yeah, some entities, because of how we've grown up, instill fear. Okay, you take a look at it. We have been taught, but when fear, understand, is a fear of punishment more often than not. A fear of punishment, a fear of loss, a fear of disappointing people, a fear of hurt, of being hurt. Name it, you can throw fear in front of it. Now, much as most people are afraid of being hurt, I learned a poem decades ago when my eldest brother was all but an older teenager. He comes home one day and he recites this beautiful poem that had to do with being hurt. And he goes, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but whips and chains excite me." It does give you a different outlook on the way that fear can work. Okay. And of course, then you've got you've got Garfield's outlook. For those of you that think that he's sitting there talking to a spider, and he goes, "Sticks and stones may hurt and may break my bones." He grabs a hold of a dictionary that's like this thick to Garfield, picks it up and drops it on the spider. And then the little spider's got the thought coming out from underneath the dictionary, and that little thought box is going, "Ow, words hurt." And I will tell you, words are one of these things that we have to realize. They only hurt when you don't know how to deal with them. Now, I'm as bad as you are. Okay, I'm not any better from that standpoint. People can say things that in the past I have let absolutely trigger me. Okay, not the least of which are when dealing with tech or dealing with professionals. Okay, I like when dealing with tech or dealing with corporations, I have let the term should and trust go right in. They just set me off. This is something that has come to my awareness as to why they set me off. Okay. Now, am I still going to have my guard up with them? You bet. But the next phone call I make to a corporation is going to be done on a very different platform. See, like I've mentioned to you before, whether you believe something is going to happen, whether you believe you can do something or you believe you can't, almost inevitably, you're going to prove yourself correct. Not like that, unfortunately, seems to be part of the human genome. You would be amazed how many people, of the 100,000 clients I dealt with, you would be amazed at the skyrocketing majority that would sit there, they talk to you for a minute and go, "I never looked at it that way." And it can be something very simple. But again, when you're looking to the past, the first thing to tell yourself is that is the past. And much as it went sour there, this does not guarantee it's going to go sour in the future. Okay. Now, from that standpoint, we have to look at it. And especially if you see somebody in a good mood or in a bad mood, if you can say anything that draws their attention away from it. Quite often, that's all it takes, is that little itty bitty bit of a distraction. Okay, that is one of those things that are really important. And of course, if you're in a bad mood and like it comes out of nowhere, one of the things to look at is take a look at the immediate past. Where, what were you feeling? What happened that you're aware of? Okay, and you always look at what you're aware of first to ask yourself, is that the trigger? Then, and I love the way that Spock out of the original Star Trek put it. Okay, you eliminate all of the logical possibilities, and here's why. As Spock out of the original Star Trek put it, when you eliminate all logical possibilities, whatever is left, however illogical it may appear, is the answer. And I will tell you, anytime you end up in a bad mood, anytime you end up really feeling depressed, 50% of that is your doing. And that may just be the way you're interpreting it. Okay. Now, a couple of things that you can do to deal with that. First and foremost, find the fastest the highest paced music that you can find, highest paced dance music. Crank it as high as socially acceptable and let it run in the background. Okay. Because that vibratory rate of the music will help you to bring your spirit back up, to bring your mood back into a functional level. Okay. Something else that I find really works for some people, and with the internet being what it is, get up, find on YouTube, just find videos of tiny babies laughing. Okay. It is contagious, especially if you turn high enough that you can't really think. Okay. And don't get me wrong. This is not a question of avoiding the problem. This is a question of a coping mechanism to bring your thoughts back on track so that you can actually move forward. Okay. Now, as soon as I came to the conclusion that I was doing this to myself, and like I said, I had so many discussions with this same person about the same topic, that all of a sudden things turned around. This time, whatever he said, however he said, I don't know. What I do know is that I am now looking at this going, okay, let's take a look at this and see what we can do about really getting people when they come into this room, regardless of what their day's been like. Let's see what we can do about finding something positive to look at. Now, one of the neat little projects I was working on, okay, I finally got it finished. My catapult is now done. Okay, and yeah, that's good. Yeah, the catapult is finally done. So, aside from, if you notice, I've got this one itty bitty problem. I don't know if you can see that, just barely, but it's broken at the neck here, and I've got crazy glue. I just have to deal with that. But from a painting standpoint, I finished it. Okay. And again, this is one of those things that can help you get past the idea of fear. A simple issue. This is another one of the ones I've been working on. Only now I'm starting to mix colors a whole lot more. And I think you can see some of the change in color. But I'm starting to mix the colors instead of just going, let's take one big color and leave it there. He's not done, so he needs to go up there. As does this one. This one I've got little touches and touch-ups to do. And again, these are just some of the hobby and some of the little figures I'm working with. But when we're looking at the fear side of things, it really boils down to, hey, Carl, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Didn't quite see him well. I wonder when you came in. I think you just got here. Where are we? It does not tell me there. Wonder if it tells me there. No, of course not. No. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. But when we're looking at fear, the first thing we have to do is go, what, is there anything you can chalk up to where that fear came from? Okay. Now, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. When my mood starts to shift gears, my first rule of thumb is look at getting the mood back into a functional play. Okay. And really, that boils down to, it comes back to that issue of having goals that you can accomplish. Okay. I've really been putting a lot of focus at this point of getting books completed. So today I got a little sidetracked with one set of writing. So as soon as I get off my, as a matter of fact, where is my pen? There we are. So I take this little thing, flip it over, and for as soon as I get off this live stream, right, there's this neat little problem of getting 10 pages of, well, I think I only actually have 2 or 3 pages left. Yesterday, I went through 4 races of the world. I went through almost 20 pages of notes, added it into the books. Now I'm going to go through and finish the others. Shadow, how you doing? Oh, I think you've been in the room for a while. Just probably quiet because I know you keep yourself really, really busy. Okay. But, when you take a look at the goals that you've got for yourself, simply getting them accomplished will help alleviate that issue of learning to really look forward to your life. Instead of looking backwards in fear, look forward in anticipation. For instance, you can look back and go, I didn't get this done, like I just did. Okay. You can look at it, like I could look at it and say, oh, let's see, I was going to get Races of the Worlds worked on this morning. I didn't get there. Now I can sit here and beat myself black and blue and go, I'm never going to get this done in time. Okay. Because I figured it out, and I only have, based on 5 pictures every 2 weeks, so that I don't have my artist up in arms over trying to get things done. Well, do say hi to him from us, and Shadow, please do pass on my personal congratulations on the work he's doing, because his work on the channel is really nothing short of impressive. Okay, if you would be kind enough to let him know, that would be really appreciated. You can take a look at the world and you can go, oh, everybody's better at this than I am. And probably people are. Okay, there's no question that there will always be somebody better than you, always somebody worse. Okay, I always take, and I literally mean in this case, I always look at the one issue about me. Every single individual, without exception, okay, every single individual in any species that I ever meet, I make every one of them happy. Okay. Now the reality of it in my eyes is I make some people happy by showing up. I make most of them happy by packing up and leaving. But at least they're happy. For me, I've come to the conclusion that I have to choose, because I've always told, people say, well, are you happy? I'm like, I don't even know if I know what happy is. But here's what happy is. Happy is when you feel good about something you've done or something that has happened for you. When you feel good about it, this is called being happy. Okay. Now, I look at, I listen to myself, and in all fairness, I really don't go back and listen to my videos. The live streams, like I know I've got the option at the end of it. Go back and edit them. My personal opinion on that is I will never bother editing them, simply because they are called a live stream, meaning this is what came out. Like yesterday, apparently I was tired. Somebody mentioned in the chat room that I just kind of zoned out for a minute, which happens. Now, I could have gone in, well, assuming I could figure out how to do it, I could go in and I could delete that record. But here's the thing, it doesn't change the reality of it. And this is what we have to really start looking at. Will changing what you have recorded, will it change the reality of what's happened? And the answer there is unequivocally no. Okay, so I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, what am I going to get accomplished today? And one of the first things I always recommend, you desire to get your day started properly. Okay, you desire to get over the fear of having a day, of having your day. The moment you wake up, wait until your eyes are working so that they register so you can see. Okay, if you happen to be like some people, I could go through every disability or every hiccup. Now, blind people, as far as I'm concerned, are not disabled. They happen to be auditorily enhanced. Okay. Now, there are challenges that everybody has, but as soon as your brain comes online enough that you can function, get out of bed. Okay. Right off the bat, doesn't matter what time it is. Like what happens for me is I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, yeah, okay, I'm awake. So I'll get out of bed, get up, do what you have to in the washroom. Okay, come back and make your bed. Right off the bat, you've already overcome the biggest obstacle you will ever face in your life. And that is your own stubborn disposition. Okay. But you do that, and now you've already got, well, let's face it, you haven't even got out of the bedroom. You've already got 3 successes under your belt. Okay, now when you're looking at marketing, when you're looking at sales, every sales instructor that I've ever talked to or marketing teacher has always said the same thing. If you can get somebody to say yes on a repeated basis, you're working that much more, you're working away that much closer to getting a sale. Well, if you're striving to overcome fear, okay, and that is a question of, well, my life is never going to change. If you're living that kind of fear and you start off by throwing yourself out of bed as soon as your eyes focus enough you can see straight, and I do strongly recommend you wait that long. I've done it before where I get out of bed before I can see straight and it's like right into the wall. This is not an enjoyable experience. Okay. You know, now again, we can go back to that sticks and stones thing, but, you know, the reality is you start overcoming the little obstacles and all of a sudden the big obstacles are not as big a problem. Okay, but it comes down to a mindset. Now, we're taught from the get-go that you have to fear. You know, you've got to fear everything, the creator included. Now, if you happen to be hanging around a so-called spiritual guide that tells you they are the only path to get anywhere, I'm telling you they're lying to you, just flat out. Because there is no one individual in existence. And even for those people, I know this is going to upset them. Okay. But that's okay. Everybody's entitled to be upset. But even in Christianity's heyday, when people said that the only way to salvation, the only way to a better life was through one individual. Well, the fact that there were many people that found satisfaction, that found enjoyment without hurting other people and without following that individual, okay, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is not only one way to get there, but there is one method, okay, at least as far as I've come to understand. And if somebody can find another one, absolutely do me a favor and bring me up to speed. But the only path that I've ever found for people to successfully create, and you'll notice I say create, I didn't say find, create happiness in their own life. Okay, happiness, contentment, however you want to go. Now, from my standpoint, I go with lack of disappointment, contentment, then potentially happiness. Okay, but the only way to do that I'm aware of, okay, is to turn around and take a look at whatever you're not content with, whether it happens to be the path that you've been following, the fact that you haven't got a certain amount of stuff done, okay, if it's because you didn't get something accomplished, absolutely imperative that you say that you literally look at it and go, what have I not got accomplished? And what little step can I make and can I take to get there? Now, this funny little thing when I get off, okay, that's got to be transferred afterwards. Remember that thing I mentioned about this little list of things that I've got to do when I get done? And I'm going to touch on this again, which has absolutely, well, it's got a lot to do with happiness, but what I'm holding here is a grocery bill. Okay. Now, I don't know about your grocery store, but in my grocery store, in the one I go to, at the bottom of the bill, they will tell me you saved X dollars and X cents. Okay. Now, if all you do is take this and go, okay, I didn't spend as much, but you carry on with your life, you're not saving a nickel. Okay. What I really encourage you to do is the same thing I do. Now, this was only a tiny little bill. Okay. Went in, spent $39.91. But my bill says I saved $1.86. So when I get done the writing this evening, like I said, the first thing I'll be doing is dealing with Races of the Worlds. Okay. The second thing I will be doing is moving my savings. What that little amount just told me. Let me double check that. That's $1.86. You save. Yes. Okay, so it is second, and again, I come up with ideas here, and I just go, that's what I'm working on next. This is the reality behind taking your life and going, hey, Nathan, how you doing? Glad you can join us. You know, when you look at a goal, okay, by getting that dealt with, there is a certain amount of satisfaction. And the reason I use this list thing is I can have the list, and as I get them done, I check them off. Okay, that way, by the end of the night, I can go, I managed to get these different things accomplished. Now, I can absolutely put a list together that's 1.5 miles long. I caution you against doing that. I've done it multiple times. But what I find happens is this. You get this list that's so cumbersome that you will never get through it. By keeping it down to 3 items on the list. Make sure they're only 15-minute to half-hour tasks where possible. Okay? So where it comes to those 10 items, think what I'll do is this. I do desire to have 10 done. But if I go Races of the World, 2 pages, and then immediately after that, okay, I've got the moving the savings money. Then we put another 2 pages down. Okay. Again, this will keep things on the go. But the reason we fear things is we're taught if you don't get things completed, you're not good enough. You're not living up to the standard. You're not pulling your weight. And so many people get caught up in that. Okay. Like somebody tells me, you're not pulling your weight. I look at them and go, yeah, and I'm not making $1 million a day either. You know, although that would be a nice change. But it boils down to accepting where you are and deciding if you're content. Now, the nice little part of the way this world is going, I know you don't hear that very often, but I'm seeing it a lot more readily here. Okay, we have a choice. And I do mean yourselves as well as myself. This is not you have a choice. I've got the same one and I'm no better than you are. Okay, we can live in the past. We can certainly look at the things you have not accomplished. Shadow, that is not something to apologize, but thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I doubt very much you'll be back here before we're done. But thank you so much and have a great game. The reality is, and this is why I look at it and just go on Thursdays, I'm not coming online, period. Okay, because that is my game time. And I'm usually a little preoccupied to get here, considering everything else I'm working on. But I am looking at the whole 9 yards here. We are taught if you don't do what you set out to, you're failing. Okay. You're not good enough. And if you're not good enough, people are going to look down on you. Okay. And the first person that's got to quit doing that, okay, is yourself. Now, I will tell you, there is only one group of people that I ever, there's one group of people that I ever look down on and there's no way around it in my eyes. I look down on them. If I'm standing up and they're shorter than me and I'm not in a position to sit down, I will look down on that person. Okay. And that's just the way it's going to be. I will always, in all likelihood, if I'm standing up, unless my other half gets up on a chair, I'm going to have to look down on her. Because frankly, I'm about a half a foot taller than she is. So I don't get options. I have to look down on her. She always has to look up at me, unless she gets up on a chair. Okay. Now, with that in mind, look at everybody the same way. Every single one of you is in the same boat. I would lay odds that everybody that comes in and that listens to this video, okay, I would lay odds that you're all in the same boat. Okay, you have goals, you've got things you have not accomplished, and you got to this point in life somehow. Okay, the path to get here may not have been the same, but I will tell you this: unlike the old Roman proverb or Roman saying, all roads lead to Rome. Well, all roads didn't lead to Rome. Okay, because I will tell you, if you were outside Rome and you were walking away from it, that road did not lead to Rome; it led somewhere else. If you turn around, it leads to Rome. Okay, but I will tell you this: all roads do lead to the present. Okay, there is no question there, and every single road you ever travel will lead to the future, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from. Now, the question you have to ask yourself, or that it is wise to ask yourself, is, are you content on the path you're currently on? And if not, if I were to ask you, if there was one thing that you could change about yourself, or more to the point, begin to change about yourself right now, what would it be? Okay, for me, that one thing I would change right this moment, I've already put it in motion, so I'm already in the process of getting that habit built, is my tendency to procrastinate, and much more importantly, my tendency to lose my temper when people are doing stupid things. In other words, they've got a job. I expect them to do their job, but they're not doing their job. This upsets me. I do not like the fact it upsets me, but hopefully the conversation I had the other day will help. But we are taught to fear not getting things accomplished, not living up to somebody else's standards. Okay, I'm going to tell you wholeheartedly, and I've already done this myself, take a look at the way your life is going. Ask yourself, are you content with the way you're handling your life? Are you content are you treating people the way you personally desire to be treated? If the answer is yes, then absolutely stay the course. If the answer is no, then it's time to look at the one thing you do have control over, which is your actions, your words. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. Look at that. I got this neat little sign behind me that you cannot see because, well, my head was in front of it. Oh, by the way, is this one? Nope, I do know what I'm doing with that. That's all out of the way that works. But we're taught to fear. And the question you have to ask is, from your standpoint, if you look at the rational side of it, is there any functional reason to sit there and fear what's going on? Okay, will it get you anywhere if you're fearing what's happening? Will it help you at all if you fear it? Or is it just another way to give yourself a headache? And I will tell you, I find all kinds of ways to give myself headaches. So, from that standpoint, take a look at the reality of what you're doing. Okay, ask yourself, is this functional? Now, you'll notice if you pay attention to fear, you're not paying attention to you seem to be ignoring. It's almost like if you're paying too much attention to fear, you're ignoring the possibility of joy. Okay. And I'm not sure about you, but I'm pretty certain, I know from my standpoint, it's time to really look at what is going to make me happy, what I'm content with. Okay. But we're taught that the past is going to dictate our future. And here's the thing. Okay. When you take a look at it, if somebody does something wrong, do you condemn them for the rest of their life for doing something wrong? Or do you deal with the situation and then let them work towards putting things back together? That's the thing you have to look at. Is, are you actually promoting people healing, or are you holding a miscalculation or a stupid move against them for life? Now, this often happens with people when they look at somebody that's done something absolutely stupid. Maybe they opened their mouth too early, or when they shouldn't have opened it at all. These are just some of the things. Now, here I know I'm hanging on to a paintbrush. Well, let's face it. At least I'm not doing this. At least I don't have this in my hand. Because this is the thing that I usually play with. Okay, but I found if I play with this, it makes way too much noise. Especially if I'm shaking it up here by my ear. Okay, and I don't know what happens in your guys' cases. But take a look at the way your life is going. The way to overcome that fear is to figure out, first and foremost, are you fearing something you personally have control over? Okay, for instance, are you fearing leaving that? Now, fear and phobia are simply in greater or lesser degrees of the same thing. But I'm talking just the fears, not the phobias just yet. They get healed the same way, but I will tell you this. Phobias tend to be a lot deeper seated and a lot more difficult, or it takes longer to overcome them. Okay. But we are taught, so many people are taught how to fear life. Oh, you can't do that. You'll be disappointed. I hear that from parents all the time. Where a parent will turn to a kid and say, no, you're just going to be disappointed going down that path. How many parents or how many kids, and you may be one of them, considered getting into, for instance, the music industry, and you looked at and went, I desire to be a musician. And the parent turns around and goes, you'll starve. You cannot make money at that. I'm telling you, musicians can make money. Yes, it's difficult. Same as writing. It's difficult. But think of it. Look at the superstars that we've got. Okay, and I'm talking superstars from the past that really cut the edge on things, on the modern type of music anyway. You know, you take a look at groups like Kiss, you know, like Boney M. Yeah, that tells you just how old we're talking about. I'm sure there are modern groups that have come out. There's a lot of people that sing in nightclubs and what have you that really have a gift and just haven't been in the right place at the right time. Our fear of the future is brought about, our fear of living is brought about by the fear of loss or the fear of lack or the fear of not being as good as. Okay, net result, jealousy is a massive deterrent. In jealousy will teach people to fear the whole 9 yards of life. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. Now, I currently, I could tell myself I've got a fear of finance, but really I don't. Okay, I've got a lack of it, but this whole setback and the fact that I have trained myself to believe and have learned to embody the idea of I don't know how to market is a load of guess what? I absolutely know how to market. Okay, have I done it? Absolutely not. But the reason I know how to market is I turned around and have guided other business people in making decisions in how to get things out and running in order to be seen. What I have not done myself is got off my tail feathers and actually started pushing it. Let's face it, I could be writing the best books in existence. Okay, but I'm not even moving. Uh-oh. World, didn't see it come in there, I don't think, World, but welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. Now, I'm going to ask something because, well, I'm dense. But what, pray tell, is an IRL problem or an IRL issue? I'm guessing it's tech work, but just curiosity on my part. That better move over there. What do you think? This look like something I should be drinking? I'm thinking not really. It's my water that's got Dawn in it and paint. But I keep reaching for it to give myself a drink, which I'm thinking is going to give myself something else. Thank you so much there, world. I appreciate that so much for it being modern tech. Told you I'm dense. But dense does have dense absolutely has an advantage. How you doing there, Nikki? Glad you could join us. The neat little part when I said being dense can have its advantages. I remember a situation I ran into. I had when I was 14 years old, I had a young adult come up to me, points a buck knife at my stomach, and he goes, give me your wallet. Now this is where dense could have worked out really sour. Because I looked at him and I went, why? Like I just totally missed it. He goes, well, I've got a knife. I said, I can see the knife. I said, what's it got to do with my wallet? He goes, well, I could gut you with it. I go, possible. Well, it's really sharp. I said, if you're considering, gutting me with it, I should hope it's sharp. But what's it got to do with my wallet? I'm just totally missing the whole thing. Okay. And he goes, give me your wallet. I looked at him. I said, I'm going to go through this one more time with you. I've got a wallet and you've got a really sharp knife that you could gut me with. But I still don't get the connection. Well, this is called being dense to a stupid level. Okay, because that could have gone wrong in so many ways. Instead, he just folded up the knife and walked away, muttering something of all the people. You know, let's see here. I'm just looking at what Joe wrote. Joe's written, that's another thing too. If you have a disability or autoimmune disease, dating someone is difficult. If you can find a partner, but try and find someone to be with you. Do your best. I absolutely agree, Joe. If you've got a disability, if you've got something that puts you outside of mainstream, okay, then yes, it can be challenging. But the trick is to find somebody that you can be straightforward with and go, this is the hiccup. Okay, and I'm telling you, with a life path that I've been on and with the hiccups that I've got in my outlook on life, the fact that I found somebody that can tolerate me at all is amazing in and of itself. Okay, and yes, we are still looking at the same issue. You know, assuming that she gets up here before I die, like I told her, she is definitely on a time limit. You die first or I die before you get here, I'm not marrying you. That's just all there is to it. Now, in almost 2.5 years, albeit we are in a long distance relationship, okay, in almost 2.5 years, we have never had so much as one argument. Okay, now I don't know if this is, well, I know it's not normal. I've only seen that occur once. The one thing I will caution you on there, world, is you're looking at it like what world is put in here is that's me, full disability hermit. Okay. Number one, we know for an absolute certainty that you've got strengths. Okay. The fact that you can put a cognitive center and word and sentence together says you're not fully disabled. My brother had full disability and was a hermit. My brother had a stroke so bad and he died in 2010. But from 2009 to 2010, he could not move, communicate. He couldn't get any information out to anybody. He was trapped in his own body. Now, to me, that's what a full disability looks like. Everything else is a hiccup. Okay. And some of the hiccups are almost impossible in today's world to overcome, or you may not have the talent to get past them. But there are ways of dealing with life. But the real kicker to it, from my standpoint, is, very much with the idea, that Joe came up with. Do your best to find somebody that will take you as is. Okay, that's the reality behind it. If you find somebody that will accept you as is and will work with you, it can be an absolutely magical thing. Okay, to my standpoint, I look at the world and go, yeah, I'm pretty much a mess where it comes to connecting with people. But I have determined that a lot of that has been by design. Okay, now if you're listening in on this point, if you haven't already given us a thumbs up, assuming you are enjoying the stream, please do give us a thumbs up. It seems to have something to do with the algorithm that that YouTube uses. Okay, and I'm quite happy with the way the whole group in here is going. I see people interacting all the time in the chat room, not necessarily about what we're talking about, but what is consistent is whatever the side chatter is, or cross chatter, whatever you want to call it, seems to be geared at helping the other people in the chat room one way or another. Okay, understanding I'm not the only one in existence that can assist people. Hey, Elaine, glad you could join us. Don't forget, people, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, hit that funny little subscribe button down in the right-hand corner. That would be really appreciated. Because one of the goals I am working on, and it really does boil down to money, but not money that you personally are spending. Okay, when I get to a certain point, when I get to the 1,000 subscribers, YouTube starts giving me an income. Okay, and it literally has been through the encouragement you guys have given me And quite frankly, some of the information that I've ended up gleaning just by the questions you guys are asking, or the ones that I'm asking you. This is what a community is supposed to look like. Right now we've got 11 people in the chat room. We've had more in the chat room before. Okay, that's certainly not our it's certainly not our best day yet. Okay, but it's double what used to be our best day. There were times when I'd be on here and I just about walked away from it because the first 6 months is really rough on occasion. Okay, but pick a goal that you're not, pick something you're not content that you haven't completed and get working on it. And whatever you do, one of the things to get past the fear, it's always easier to go down a road somebody else has gone down. There are some roads I wouldn't recommend. I can relate to that all too well there, world. I'm looking at that issue myself. I've got very few people I connect with. And of course, being on a limited budget, I do have mobility. I just have this problem of I don't like moving anywhere. When people go to meet me locally, it's like, okay, here's one restaurant that I go to. You want to meet me? That's where you go. Okay. And here's a plug for the restaurant that I've never used. I'm in Kelowna, in Rutland. Okay. And there's one restaurant within striking distance of my home called Wings that I almost used to live at. I've really gotten a lot better at the cooking things in my own home. Still not great with it, but at least I can do it. But we are taught that we have to fear. And I will tell you, there are so many times you get into the public systems, whether they are spiritual guidance, educational, political, it doesn't matter. People are shut down. You're not as good. Therefore, you don't know the question to ask. I'm not giving you the answer. Now, I find it really sad when you go to a financial advisor and they don't ask you that, they don't offer the guidance that, in my opinion, is common sense if you're an advisor. Okay. But now some of you have people that turn to you. Okay, I cannot be the only one that people turn to ask questions. Okay, but the one thing that I constantly have to remind people, I don't make decisions for other people. Okay, everybody has free will. You have the choice. You can look at the world in a negative fashion. You can buy into all the negativity, all the fear that's being propagated, and you can certainly share the daylights out of it. Okay, absolutely you can. But the thing we have to remember is that if we are choosing to live in fear, if we are choosing to promote that, what you're doing is saying, this is the world I desire to live in. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of the idea of everybody being afraid. Now, bear in mind, I'm empathic. So when everybody is afraid of something, I feel it directly. Okay, and I'm myself, I'm very tired of this. This is one of the reasons why I pulled into being a recluse to start with. Okay, now I do try and get out of the house, but like I was out today, and due to the fact everything else is already dealt with, I don't have to leave my house until Thursday morning. Okay, and that's just to go pick something up and come home. And then I'm home for the day. It's just a question, go there, pick it up, and come back. Now, I gotta ask you there, world. I get the I get the idea in all fairness, but what, pray tell, does the EFF stand for? Yes, I'm dense. I know this. Okay, kind of like that IRL that we were talking about. Okay, I'm absolutely aware that I'm about as dense as they get where it comes to that kind of a thought process. But I'm looking at it this way. By turning around and helping, and pointing people in the right direction, when I talk about it being in the right direction, I'm talking about being in a direction where fear is not the dominating thought process. Okay. I'm referring to looking at it going, okay, where's the benefit? I know you guys, all of you guys. Oh, okay. Got it. Yes. Told you I'm slow. Sometimes I pick things up, just sadly, most of the time I really am slow. And like I said, that does have the benefit. I don't like that. Fluffies in my mouth. I don't know about you, but fluffies in my mouth are just annoying. But no, that word has become it's one of the most versatile words. It can be used as a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb. It's very versatile. Problem is, if you say too many of them in a line, you don't know which one's which. Okay, which one is the verb, the noun, F that F and FF. You might have a problem, okay, in trying to decipher it. But the way I figure it, English is hard to decipher. Because if you think about it, the English language is basically made up as we go along. Oh, all you do there, Joe, is just take a look at the woman, make a comment about her. I would recommend making a positive comment. Okay. I've been known to, I was never known for picking up, for drawing really good looking women to me in the terms of dating. But I would always have model class women sitting at the table with me. Right. And I got asked by one guy, he's saying, because he considered himself a real ladies' man, he'd get everybody's attention. Okay. And he turned around. Good afternoon, Nightmare. Glad you could join us. This guy turns around, he looks at me and he goes, how do you do that? He says, how do I do what? He goes, every time I walk in here, you're sitting down with an absolute knockout girl. I looked at him and I said, I invite her. But then when I look at somebody and I invite them to sit down on a table, I've got no ulterior motive. It is simply, there's an empty seat, you're looking for one, pull up a stump. Okay. And this is what I mean by I look at everybody in exactly the same fashion. Well, correction. I look at what I consider good-looking women, regardless of where they came from, in the same way. I do have a fault. I've got a lot of faults. I got a stack that's a mile deep. But it absolutely shocked me when I started actually looking into dating that the physical appearance of somebody never matters to me at all where it comes to friendship or where it comes to business. I could care less what people look like. Okay, I care a lot about how they behave, but not about what they look like. However, when I started to look into dating after my marriage collapsed, well, in all fairness, I walked out of my marriage. Okay, but when I first started looking into it, it absolutely stunned me that where it came to finding a partner, the appearance really did matter. And yet I was doing jack about my appearance. Okay. Now I'm actually doing something about my weight and what have you. Neat part there is I'm not looking for another girlfriend. I figure one is more than enough. Although one day, in all fairness, I have every intention on getting rid of my girlfriend. Absolutely, I do plan on casting her aside, as it were. Of course, the reality is I plan on getting engaged to her, at which point she'll no longer be my girlfriend. I remember talking to one guy, He was so down on himself. He goes, I don't get it. He goes, I had a girlfriend, everything was going great, and now she's gone. I says, yeah, I lost my girlfriend too. And he goes, well, I'm really sorry about that. He goes, what happened? I said, I married her. Now, this is just another way of looking at what we're afraid of. If you're afraid of being alone, okay, you're going to push people away from you. Okay, oddly enough, because what happens is you're afraid of being alone, but if you're afraid of being alone, what'll happen is you'll start reaching out and trying to cling, accidentally most of the time. You'll end up trying to cling. Okay, if you're afraid of being with somebody, you'll push them away automatically. And you don't even have to do anything. Okay. Now I'm just gonna go back up here. World said here, he goes, I was easily scared. I wouldn't be out solo camping with Bigfoot tribes. That's for sure. The day I met the Bigfoot family, okay, the day I met them was not because I was out trying to meet them. I wasn't even out looking for them. I simply wandered away from my campsite and couldn't find my way back. And lo and behold, there they were. Now it's a question of taking a look at things and going, okay, what am I afraid of? What is holding me back? And one of the biggest things that's holding me back, where it comes to, and I know this for an absolute certainty now. Yes, absolutely. And besides that, Klingons have absolutely terrible manners. But, you can tell, and people know that people that have gone through this know, if you're trying to date somebody and your attention is on somebody else, if your heart belongs to another, the person you're trying to date will sense it. They may not know what they're sensing, but they will sense it. And they will absolutely turn around and it'll cripple the relationship at best. So when you're looking at how do you learn to enjoy life? Well, you learn to enjoy life by you actually teach yourself to enjoy life by finding things you desire to get accomplished, breaking them down and making the effort to actually complete them. Because there is nothing more fulfilling from what I found than having a goal and going, it's done. Even when I had, where to put it? Oh, no. Where the heck did I put it? Right behind me. The feeling I had when I tied this one together and I finished off the paint. Okay, and I realize it's got these light sections here. Okay, but they're not actually white. They're actually yellow at this point. But when I tied this one off, I can now add it to my list of completed tasks. So I get to run to finish it off. Okay. Wondering if I have one here. That's not what I need, but what I do require is that. I do this a lot. I'll get sitting here, and I've got all these things I'm striving to do, and then I completely get sidetracked and don't get to them. But I was talking, actually, thing was actually, pretty sure it was Shadow and Sun that told, and that Shadow was the one that actually suggested it. As far as the color goes here, for the wings, for the canvas on the wings. Might have been Shadow, might have been my other half. I really don't recall. But actually, come to think of it, it was my other half. But that being said, while I'm working on this is one of those things I'll be able to rack off and go, I managed to get it done. I just have to be careful to do it the way I desire it to be finished, without actually getting my hands all covered in paint. But the easiest way in the world to find out how, see what I mean? To find out how to get to a point where you can actually not fear your life, not fear living. It's pick goals, just little ones, just a little goal so that you can actually look at what you're up to and go, I got this accomplished. I set out to get it accomplished, and there it is. Now, one of these days I'll get out of my house long enough, and it'll probably wait until the weather warms up here. And I will turn around and go and get a new wardrobe. Because, sooner or later I'm going to have to. It's just never really mattered, but there's an old saying that goes, dress for success. Well, I figure if I get dressed, this is okay. Oh, what do we got? No, in all fairness there, YJ, that is a completed trebuchet. I don't need to pay, my apologies, that is not a trebuchet, that is a catapult. Okay, one of these days after I get a little bit of extra money, and that really boils down to sales climbing, I will be going and getting a trebuchet. But the one that I've got is actually a catapult. Okay. But this is actually a mechanical dragon. It seemed to me that doing the wings the same color as the main body of the dragon didn't seem to make sense. Because let's face it, metal does not make for a flexible wing. Okay, I mean, metal works great for a wing. Let's face it, how many people, quite really, when you think about it, how many people have been on a plane where they've got really rigid wings? They work like a charm. But I'll tell you, if you're on a plane where the wing buckles, you're not going to be overly comfortable nor overly relaxed, even if you're normally a very relaxed person. But, one of the biggest tricks I found to really not fearing whether life was going to move forward for you was deciding it's not going to move forward for me. It's going to move forward because I choose to make it do that. It just boils down to an issue of looking at your current life and going, are you content? If you're content, then absolutely stay on the path you're on. If you're not content, then this is the time, meaning right here, right now, and you're in exactly the same boat as everybody else. Okay. Right now is the time to actually start changing it. Now, the one thing that bothers me, and it's one of many in case you hadn't noticed, is the number of spiritual guides out there. And yes, I lump spiritual guides, religious icons, coven leaders. I lump all of them together. That is what I was thinking there, world, but thank you. This is what I'm doing with them. Okay, I just decided, well, it was suggested to go with red or blue, so I just chose red. Or my other half did. I can't honestly remember which one of us came to it. But it is something that I basically came to the conclusion that's what I was doing. And, the only time I've ever seen Kevlar or any variation of it, it's always been a gray color. And I just wanted something that was a little bit more vibrant in this case. So since I wanted it, I made it. Nice thing about painting, nice thing about artwork. You've got the freedom to do it your way. That's just the reality behind it. So I mean, from my standpoint, I'm looking at it going, I'm not going to even attempt to try and compete with anybody but me. Because I figure if I'm happy with it, if I can work with it, then that's good enough. Okay. And somebody asked me the other day if I'd be willing to sell some of these or where I will be selling them. And the reality is, once I get them done, I've got thinking about it. I'm like, somebody wants to give me more money than what I paid for it, plus the shipping, obviously, I got no problem with it, because these don't hold, these things I'm working on, they don't hold any sentimental value. They do hold the intrinsic value of having done them, but some of them will be a little bit, I'm sort of looking at it going, I can't see people wanting to pay for it, because we start off with the idea that this little figure here, and I'm sure the world knows it, this little figure here on its own is $20. Okay, at least where I got it. So you've got the $20, and I'm not talking about looking at going, it cost me $20 to buy just the figure. Okay, I'm not looking at putting that on the market and going, I gotta sell it for $200 or $300. That was brilliant. From my standpoint, thank you so much for that, world. From my standpoint, boils down to this. Find something that you can do or that you can accomplish that you're content with. Okay, that is where you will get past the fear of living. Okay, by simply making life more rewarding in your eyes. Never mind anybody else's. Okay, because once you come to the understanding that you can have, that things can go your way, that you can create things you're happy with. I mean, it's really weird. I look at it going, I don't like, I don't like myself. I didn't enjoy cooking. I know, even in my eyes, I'm not good at it. Okay, but I'm finding now that I can actually enjoy it a little more. That would be a bad move. I was going to paint the underside of the wing, and then I all of a sudden found out my hands are getting red. I was about to say I'm I'm finding my hands are getting bloody, but I don't think that's the case. I haven't cut myself with a paintbrush in the past, and I can't see being able to do it without a lot of effort. But when we're looking at how the heck do you learn to enjoy life? Well, you learn to enjoy life by finding things that make you feel better. Usually this means by doing something, either you haven't done it before, or it's simply one of those things that when you get it completed, you feel better because you got it completed. Let me ask you this. When you're, if you're around people that are constantly saying, fear everything, you're not good enough to play, you're not good enough to do this. Okay, I'd like you all to take this in mind. Now, I look at my artwork, and it is artwork. It's not great in my opinion, but I look at it going, this isn't good. But on the flip side, and take this one to heart, I know of a situation, and I've mentioned this before. Somebody took a white canvas, just a standard art canvas. They painted the thing just one color of paint. They whitewashed the whole thing in some color of white. Okay, in just straight white. Now, apparently there's several different shades. Don't ask me, I look at it and go, it's white. Right, but they painted it all one color. They put a baseboard wood around the edge to make a frame. And they turned around, called it whiteout. Now, this is a really, really artistically advanced maneuver. They painted it all white. They called it whiteout. The painting sold for $1 million. Now, who am I to tell you whether you're an artist or a writer? Okay, all I can tell you is that if you're happy with it, it's called well done. If you're not happy with it, then, maybe you're not happy with it. Maybe somebody else is. And honestly, if somebody offers you money for something that you don't think you did good on, unless you've got a sentimental attachment to it, no problem moving it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I use, I'm actually using acrylic. Okay, now I know that's not red, that's espresso. Okay, but, you know, I know I made the mistake one day. I was painting at one point, but I was working with some other stuff. And I ended up cutting my hand. And I'll tell you, you really couldn't tell the blood from the red that I was working with. You know, but that's just kind of a sad side twist. But no, one of the tricks to really learning how to enjoy life, how not to fear it, is challenge yourself to doing something that you haven't done. You know, it was really weird. I sat down, and it'd only be about 3 weeks ago now. And I sat down and went, finances are really, really on the tight side. I've got to do something about that side of it. Because I still have this funny thing. I love to eat when I'm hungry. I don't like going hungry when I'm hungry. I like going hungry when I'm not hungry, but that's a little harder. You know, and about 3 weeks ago, I went, no, I'm going to start figuring out how to cook. Okay. Well, lo and behold, found out something absolutely remarkable. I actually enjoy it. Okay. I still can't stand up for as long as I should be able to. So I've got to be careful on the approach to that side of it. But find something that you enjoy. Now, for me, gaming is a real big plus. Like I mentioned, when I had my stroke back in 2018, I told the doctors that I was not going to be in the hospital on New Year's Eve. I was not spending it there. Now, do understand, I went in unable to talk, unable to walk on the 28th. Okay, on the morning of the 28th. And on the 30th, when I could finally speak again, I told them I was going home for New Year's. What I didn't tell them was why. But, I've been playing D&D for the last 20 years. Every New Year's Eve, we play Dungeons and Dragons. And that's the way we've been bringing the new year in for the last 20 years. So, of course, I told the doc I was going home, and he's like, no, the nurses are all saying not possible. Well, I would barbecue, but I don't have a barbecue, and lighting my deck on fire is a bad idea. Somebody did that a couple of months ago, and it wasn't well received. Although I did find out when I was barbecuing, years ago when I was still with the then wife, I found out that because I'm creative, I think outside the box. I'm still looking for the box I'm supposed to think in. But I did find out with a barbecue, and this is a bad idea. Okay, the only brilliant thing I did was move the barbecue away from the house before I did it. But I did find that fire starter, your lighter fluid, works like a charm. But if you don't have any, in small quantities, gasoline works just as well. But gasoline has a tendency of blowing up. By the way, usually creates a bit of a problem. For me, and I was trained how to work with gasoline, not for lighting fires, by the way. My dad, when I was growing up, taught us how to use gasoline, how to use, more to the point, a blowtorch to actually burn our front lawn instead of cutting it. Yeah, I don't know where the silly box is either. I have found out though, that if you do get caught up looking for things, more often than not, I keep finding that I never find them. I spent years trying to figure out how to fit into this world. And I did find the less I try and fit in, the more I become that I stick to me. I am this way, take it or leave it. The more you do that, what you'll find is the happier you are. Okay, now do understand this means being honest with yourself and treating other people the way you desire to be treated. Okay, if you tell people because you want them to stay away from you, if you take to telling people to flock off, it's not going to be well received. That's just, most people take offense to that. Don't know why, look at somebody and just go F off. Usually people don't take that all that well. Hey, little Katie, glad you could join us. Thought you came in earlier, but if you didn't, I'm glad you're here anyway. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to drop in. You know, the trick to learning how to enjoy life is to find something you personally enjoy. You know, this is just one of I would be. The funny thing is, if I'm talking on a phone or if I'm talking on Skype or something, while I'm talking, I'm usually writing, okay, or puttering around at the same time. I found out a long time ago I am not really good at sitting doing only one thing. That's just the reality of it. But find something you personally are content with. Okay. Oh, okay. How's the project coming? You got to a break into closer to completed at this point, I trust. I find it really neat. Like most of the people that are coming in here right now, I actually I'm not necessarily remembering who you are, so don't take offense to that. I have trouble remembering the names of people in my own area, that I meet face to face. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, Katie. What I keep doing, and this is what I strongly recommend, is when you're looking at a project, break it down into smaller tasks, 15-minute to half-hour tasks. That way you can see progress. You can find things actually coming together. And that in and of itself will really help with that sense of accomplishment. Like I've got this one, and I only just started the wings today. Okay, I just started the red part of them, but they are coming along nicely. And yes, I'm going to have to touch them up, but what I'm looking at this point is simply making sure that I can get the majority of them worked out. Of course, I've got sort of an ulterior motive here. The gaming crew that I've got right now they've got a game coming up on Sunday. And depending on how they handle it, I'm literally planning on dropping this thing on their lap and go, this is what you're facing. Needless to say, that's not very nice. They'll have to figure out how to deal with it. But it's one of those things where I look at it going, this is just one of those challenges that they've got to deal with. Okay. Hey, now, got a question for anybody in the chat room, and I appreciate that, okay, little Katie. I got a question for anybody that knows anything about computers. Once you have deleted something, like once you've emptied your trash bin, is there some way, and I don't even need anybody to explain it right now as is, but is there a way if you have deleted and deleted a project you're working on and emptied the trash bin, is it still hidden somewhere in the computer? If anybody can answer that, that would be really handy. I am not a computer tech, as you well know. Well, at least if you've been in the room for any length of time, I'm not a computer tech. The fact that I can get a computer to work at all is a bonus in my eyes. But we had a little bit of an accident today, and a gaming character that was really well liked and well developed got eliminated. Not a good thing. Yeah, I know a couple of people that I can get a hold of and find out, but needless to say, when I found out it was done, I was just going on the air, and I frankly didn't do anything with it anyway. I'm just hoping that somebody can explain where to find it. But we'll have to see how that works. Well, yeah. But no, the reason I decided I was going to pick looking at how to be happy was this. You know, when I look at the way my life has gone, so much has been complicated, and so many times I've come down to the wire of, and do understand. First thing I told my brother the other day was, we have to realize, yes, I'm having trouble. Just looking at this, Carl. Did you save anything else after it got deleted? Not that I'm aware of at this point. I told him not to, but at this point, I don't believe he has. Okay, but we looked in the trash bin, and the trash bin doesn't have it there, which makes sense because we emptied the trash bin. In this particular case, it's a gaming computer, and I don't think he's ever backed it up. When I'm writing, and I got to the point of doing this quite regularly, when I get done my writing session, or periodically through it, I will save the file to my zip drive, and then save it again back to my desktop. Yeah, I know we don't have that project and that particular program unless it's part of the Windows program. But then again, neither one of us are really heavy duty into the computer side of it. So this was just, this may require, probably will require, my contacting Frank. Some of you have seen Frank in here, I think. I know he's been in here a couple of times, but I'll probably end up getting a hold of him to find out. Oh, well, that would be that. Every time I download a program, I jam something up. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking there, Carl. And Frank, who I know out of Southern Texas there, he's an absolute brilliant man where it comes to computer work. See, I figure I'm doing good with the computer if I don't blow it up. And that's usually the real challenge. See, we've made some but like I said, one of the biggest tricks to really learning how to enjoy life is to find a project that you're content with. And, quite often, I find if you're creating something, doesn't matter whether we're talking about cooking, knitting, painting, building, working on mechanical stuff, I am finding this remarkably rewarding. Now those wings were not red, they were white when I started. But now I'll set them aside and let them dry for a bit, and this can go in there. I did find, it was funny, I was actually talking to, where I got the trick with the paintbrushes, was talking to somebody, or more to the point, getting somebody else to talk to them, that isn't into figure painting, but works with paints all the time in a professional capacity. Okay. Thank you so much there, little Katie. I appreciate that. Hopefully it'll pan out, but we'll find out. But no, the biggest thing that I find that is really important in life is find something that you're content with. Do something that you're happy that you did. There's very few things in life that I regret. One of the ones that I didn't do, that looking back on, I should have done, was I turned around and I did not actually go. I was asked to go to karaoke one day. Now, I've made it very clear, my singing is just not something that makes me happy. As I've told people, I can carry a tune, absolutely. You give me a cassette disc or a CD, it's got a tune on it, we'll put it in a basket, I can carry it. No problem. But that's pretty much where that ends. But find something, challenge yourself to create something that you haven't created. Okay, whatever it is. When we're young, we're taught to fear everything. As we get older, we're taught to fear more things. It's funny. Oh, you're getting better at that? No, you'll never be good enough. think back of some of the miracles that have happened. We take a look at one in particular, Marilyn Monroe, who became an absolute superstar. Okay, she was working as a waitress when somebody found her. Okay, I have no idea who found her. Somebody in the chat room probably does. But one of the things that I really do encourage people to do is find something that you yourself can enjoy. Doesn't matter what it is. But I will tell you, if you're not enjoying something, let's just put it in this perspective. Let's say you've got a job that you really don't like. Do not quit it until you have a replacement income. Okay, this is just a silly idea. And I have talked to too many people that have gone, I'm really not happy with the way my work is. I really didn't like it, so I quit. But now I'm having financial difficulties. What should I do? Well, let me think. Quitting your one source of income is usually a bad idea. It usually backfires in a very big fashion. As in, all of a sudden, no food, no roof over your head. All in all, this becomes a really bad thing. Because I don't know about you, but I kind of like the luxury of having a roof over my head, having lights on, this sort of thing. But we are taught to fear life. The trick is to find things that you're content with. Okay, and to really start pushing the limits on that. Now, what is today? Today is, of course, I'm not going to find what today is. I think today is Tuesday, but my calendar comes in handy. Okay, now the nice part about this is one little detail. Okay, when you take a look at the way this world is, we can continue taking a look at all the things that are being propagated. And, there's a war here. These people got ripped off. There was another school shooting here. And I saw one just today. It was pointing out to me, this woman she was driving along, and because she was trying, I think it was a woman, was trying to avoid the police, she caused a 4-car pileup. Okay. And in that 4-car pileup, my first question was not, did they catch the person that was trying to escape? My first question was, the people that were in the cars, did they actually come out of it in relatively good order? Never mind the cars. Okay, cars can be beaten back into shape. People, if you beat them, they're usually out of shape. Okay, so my first question was the victims in the car crash, because they didn't have the car crash because of their doing. Okay, but because of what she did. Now as far as I understand, she got caught and then complained about the way she was being handled, which from my way of thinking of it was, well, they didn't run over her, so we're ahead of the game. But then I'm a little twisted. I've got one scene that I just actually wrote for the Return to Paradise, where one of the characters, and he's a big boy, he ended up picking up a wagon. Now, right before this happened, a tiny little guy gets into this trailer to rummage around in it. Now, you got to understand the guy is a little odd. So he gets into it unseen, and this huge guy picks it up, dumps everything out, but the little guy manages to hold on. Right. And it's one of these parts that is just fun. I find it fun to write, and I know my editor she ends up looking at this particular character, and she always finds him just hilarious to work with. Do understand, the novels I write are not comedy. Okay, they are science fiction, science fantasy. But there are some characters there that do stand out as a little bit loopy. So, again, this is a question of finding things that you are content with. Like, for instance, when I take a look at this, gaming is a good example. You find figures to work with it. Because, we can go on the computer. I never took to computer gaming. It does not have the same feel. It's the same as I don't take to reading books online, to your ebooks and that sort of thing. I like the physical book in my hand. And this is what I'm working towards. This is what I'm going to do with the publishing company that I'm now pushing to start building. Okay, but I'm really lackadaisical and very unorganized where it comes to the actual, where it comes to marketing, which is something I've got to learn how to do better. And I am in the process of teaching myself. One thing I do know is this. If I don't start posting things and telling people, this is where you can get the books, they're not going to be found. We've got, let's just refresh that and see what we're dealing with here. Just because I like working with actual numbers. So I just hit refresh to see what comes back up. Once in a while, we'll pick up a new subscriber while we're online, but not very often. No, we're still sitting at 360, which means, 3 or 4 days ago, I was looking at 34% of what I'm aiming at. Okay. And now I'm looking at 36. Okay. So things are growing. And the reality is I intend on taking Inner Voice Enterprises and turning it into an international company. Will it ever be a corporation? Not the way the corporate law is laid out in the Western world. Because there is no way that I personally will have a board of directors where they have the option of firing me from my own company. Will I have a board of advisors? Absolutely. But, even with this, right now I'm a one-man show. Eventually I may require more people. Probably do. But in all fairness, this is working. And since I can't afford to pay anybody anyway, that becomes a little bit of an issue. Okay. But these are all things I'm looking and going, I've got to figure out how to get things a little bit more in tune with the 21st century. I'm in the process of teaching myself. I've got to find it first. But I'm going to be teaching myself, reminding myself rather, how to use an abacus, like how to properly use an abacus. Okay. How to read Braille by sight. I won't even bother with trying to read Braille by touch because, frankly, I can't feel the differences. My sense of touch just is not that well developed. And I doubt very much, as I'm 59 years old at this point, I doubt very much I've got time to really develop my sense of touch at this stage. But it's not going to stop me from learning. The one reality is this. Enjoyment of life is done by experiencing things in a positive fashion that you haven't experienced before. Okay. Now, I've experienced being lost. I've experienced being hurt. I'm going to opt out of those. Okay. I've experienced lots of ways of dying. Don't do that. Doesn't work out for most people. Okay. You think about it. I've been poisoned. I've been electrocuted. I've been shocked by temperature. I've, had heart attack, had epileptic seizures, had fever. These are all things that have killed me. Now, as you can tell, I'm a little stubborn because I'm still breathing. And what we have to look at here is if you desire to no longer fear living, pick something you haven't done and challenge yourself to do it. At 50 years old, with a bad leg, I taught myself how to skateboard. Now, I only got to the point where I could skate around in circles. Okay, and the skateboard park that I was going to had a few downhill slopes to it, and subsequently uphill ones. Because amazingly, on a skateboard park, it's not all downhill all the way. At some point, you got to come back up. But at 50 years old, I decided, no, I'm going to do this just to prove to myself I can do it. So I did. I learned how to do it. Now, I did give it up a year later when I realized that the strain on my knee was way too much for trying to continue with it. It just became an issue of not going to go there. Now the reality of it is there are ways of making your life better. Okay, the easiest one in the book: find something you're not content with and start shifting things around so that you can be content with what you're looking at. Okay, this is one of the key factors. Now, what I do have to say, thank you guys. We're down to the last couple of minutes here, right? And I really want to say thanks so much for the help, for the encouragement. It's amazing how much different this whole situation now feels to me as compared to what it did. I look back in March 6th of 2021 was when I did my first video online. So and that was after about 6 to 8 months of pushing from the people over at Spaced Out Radio. Okay, at the time it was like, okay, I've got to do this because I said I was going to. I'm going to force myself to continue. And there was a period about a year ago where I was sitting there going, is there any point to doing it? And I finally got to the point now where I get up in the morning going, I've got this at 4:30 and I've got to be home to do it because I enjoy doing it. Okay, sometimes it just helps me feel better. Sometimes it's because it feels like I'm talking to myself, and well, that's not entirely bad. I just happen to get into 4-way arguments. Well, realistically, I usually get into a 3-way argument with whether or not I should do something or what should be the next step. But when I get done today, like the first thing I've got is to do 2 pages off of Races of the Worlds to make sure they're expanded properly. The new information I'm adding is there. Then I'll turn around, move the savings, then go back and do another couple because I already wrote 6 pages. I've already expanded the 6 pages in Return to Paradise. Okay, and again, this is a question of picking goals, getting them listed, and like I said, you write them down where you've got goals that are only 15-minute to half-hour tasks, together. And the reason for that is you get one done, check it off, add a third one to the bottom of the list. This will help you feel like you've got something accomplished. Okay, net result, you'll feel better about your day. Even if you're having a bad day, this works like an absolute charm. Now, don't take my word for it. But if you haven't done this, if you haven't given this a shot, absolutely, I'm thinking do yourself a favor. If you have not experienced it yourself, give it a shot and see how it works. Now, on that note, I really do desire to say thank you so much for joining me. Really glad to see you in the chat room. This really feels like a well-knit family. I don't see arguments. I see people reaching out, even if it's cross-chatter and they're talking about something more that I'm not talking about. People are reaching out to help each other. And this is the message that's got to get out there. So if you do know people that don't know about this channel, please do me a favor and suggest they drop by. Okay, I am not going to grow this channel on its own. It just isn't going to happen. I don't know enough people. I mean, telling 4 people just ain't going to work that well. But I got to say thank you so much for joining me. I love the interaction. Really, really enjoy your guys coming here. So thanks for sharing your time with me. I will be back again tomorrow at 4:30 PST. Okay. Until then, though, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.